Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2018 and the third part of this experiment where we're taking a look at what would happen if you gave a non-league team the perfect shell with a sugar daddy owner, perfect facilities, perfect stadium with 150,000 capacity. And you can see on the screen already, if you missed the first two parts, they're right up into the Premier League and managed to avoid relegation in their first season. It has not gone badly whatsoever. Today, we're going to go 5 years forward and see what else they can manage to do because they have looked unstoppable up to this point. Now, before we go ahead, I do just have to say, we recently did a giveaway on the channel. There is still time to enter that, thanks to jerseygoal.com. A link to them in the description. If you click on the code down there or use the code in the link in the description, you'll get 10% off any jersey you want. It's much cheaper than I've found elsewhere, so thanks very much to them. If you want to enter the competition, click the link to my Twitter and retweet the pinned tweet, which will enter you into the giveaway. It's not too difficult. You just need to follow me and retweet and you will be into the competition. So make sure you do both of those things before you go ahead. And if you're enjoying it, make sure to subscribe so you can see other parts of this experiment as we go forward, because I am sure we are going to go a couple more episodes ahead. But do drop a like on the video if you're enjoying it. Now today we are, like I said, going 5 years forward, so I'm not going to mess about too much. We're going to go forward 1 year now and see if, after avoiding relegation in 17th place last time, they will be able to kick on and start climbing up the Premier League table. Well, we are now 1 year ahead of time. We're going to start by looking at how their season went. And as you can see, it started off not too badly for a team that only narrowly avoided relegation last time out. They've done quite well. They got a couple of wins early on and drew with Man City at home as well. Then the defeats really started to come after going through in the Carabao Cup. They went on a horrendous run where they lost 8 matches, including their quarter-final against Chelsea. Not the easiest opponents, but a really bad run of form, which will surely have cost the manager his job. They only won 1 match across this entire stretch, which look like they're heading for relegation right now. They managed to steady the ship here with 3 draws and then a win over West Brom. Lost to Liverpool, beat Stoke, few more draws, and then they seem to have ended the season pretty well, picking up 10 points in 4 games before losing to Spurs. And if we look at that Premier League table, then you can see that they did manage to avoid relegation, finishing in 14th place. Interesting little thing at the bottom here, Newcastle have been randomly chosen over Wolves after both teams finished on 36 points with the exact same record. Quite a few teams here actually, with minus 22 goal difference, but these two here were absolutely identical, and thankfully it wasn't for a relegation position, because that would have been an absolute nightmare. Imagine being randomly relegated. That'd be an incredibly harsh way to go down, but no doubt dramatic. Not something that Harrogate had to worry about. They finished in a pretty good 14th place, but 1 point off the 40 points total that you would want them to hit. Now, they did spend £176 million and only finished 14th. They signed Larry Duru from Middlesbrough for a lot of money. I'm not sure he's quite worth that much, with finishing of 11 as a striker. And they also signed Richarlison from Watford. We know how good he is, and in the game he seems to have developed pretty nicely. So a couple of big signings there, a few other big names in there as well. They spent so much money. The previous season in the Premier League they spent 94, so they're nearly at £300 million spent now. And this is what they've got for it. But let's go forward another year and see if they can continue to improve in the Premier League. Well, as you can see, a good start to this season with 3 straight wins and a couple of draws, including against United. A few more defeats here, but then even more wins heading their way. 3 straight ones as well. Through in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup as well. 3-2 over Southampton. Larry Duru proving me wrong with 2 goals there. Managed to beat Burnley and Wolves. Through in the FA Cup. Lost the first leg 4-0 to City and 4-1 in the return leg as well. Not the best semi-final there. Quite a lot of defeats around that time of the season as well. They managed to win some more and finish the season pretty strongly once more. So a very decent Premier League campaign really. And if we have a look at the Premier League table, you can see they managed to finish all the way up in 6th, which means they've gone from 14th to 6th and managed to get European football all at the same time. Not bad whatsoever. Quite some way off Liverpool, but a good way ahead of West Ham, which means that they have managed to secure that 6th place in pretty nice style. If we have a look at their transfer history, you can see they spent 175 million this season, 77 going out, but that is so much money to be spending. Only 77 the year before. I'm not quite sure how their transfers have balanced out. They must have split some of last season's spending into this season as well. You can see Larry Duru is there, so not sure quite why that's happened, but it is the way the game's happened. Still there, that is about £350 million spent, so they are not shy on cash at the moment. You can see they're rich in finances. Their reputation has dropped down a little bit. If we just have a look at their landmark screen, then you can see Irving Weaver has scaled down their funding. That was back in 2024. We saw them do that. He became an underwriter instead of a front-end sugar daddy. And otherwise, not anything too surprising there. But they've not managed to win any competitions at the top level yet. But they are going to be in Europe next season. So let's go forward and see how they get on in Europe. Well, as you can see, there is the Europa League group stage where they were drawn with Spartak Moscow, Sparta Prague and Sassuolo. So a pretty difficult group, but they won their first 3 games there alongside some inconsistent form in the league, let's say. Beat Sassuolo again, drew with Spartak and beat Sparta, so they definitely finished at the top of their group. Through in the quarterfinal of the Carabao Cup again, they're making a charge at the Club Cup competitions, if I can get my words out, and a pretty good run of form here as well. And in the Carabao Cup semi-final, they beat Everton away from home and beat them 2-1 at home as well. Required extra time. 2 goals in extra time takes them to Wembley for a cup final, and they could be about to win their biggest trophy yet. In the first leg of the first knockout round of the Europa League, they did beat Standard Liège 3-0, won in the FA Cup 5th round, won 4-0 in the return leg, but lost 2-1 to Chelsea in the Carabao Cup final. So no silverware for them there, but still the chance in Europe, and they beat Wolfsburg 1-0 away from home, and then I think lost 1-0 but went through on penalties is my reading of that. In the Premier League, their form really struggling. They were drawn with Torino in the quarterfinal of the Europa League. Managed to draw 1-1 away from home, which is not a bad result. Beat Leeds 2-0, drew with Sunderland, and beat Torino 3-0. So they're into the semi-finals of a European competition at the first time of asking. And they beat AC Milan 2-1 in the San Siro. 1-0 down, getting to the 79th minute. Scored 3 minutes later, got a second, and take a win in front of 80,000 Italians. What a story this is. Can they hold on to it? They can. A 3-0 crushing as Milan fell apart, finishing with just 9 men and an embarrassing 5-1 aggregate defeat. So Harrogate are all the way to the final of the Europa League, which if they win will put them in the Champions League, and they won it 3-0 against Schalke. They won the Europa League. Can you believe it? What a performance that is. They really struggled in the Premier League this season as well. But that final there, 3-0 up after 38 minutes, and they could coast to the final whistle. What a story. They finished 11th in the Premier League. Really struggled, but focusing on Europe instead. And they will be in the Champions League next season with a European title in the trophy cabinet. I mean, what a sensational story that is. I actually can't believe they've managed to do that. Really, really impressive. If we have a look at their competition screen, you can see there it is, the biggest trophy they have ever won by some way. And what a rise this is. I mean, we've not even been doing this experiment for that long, and they've managed to make it all the way up here. They won the Vanarama National League North in 2019. 8 years later, they've got a Europa League and they're into the Champions League. Absolutely one of the most successful experiments we've had to date, and they could still go so much further. There is no sign of them slowing down. But let's go forward another year and see how they get on in the Champions League. Well, here we are, and you can see that Champions League group stage entry straight off the bat. They lost to Arsenal in the European Super Cup, unfortunately. They were leading until nearly the hour mark, but 2 goals in 5 minutes turned them over, and Arsenal managed to take the silverware. They won their very first Champions League game, though, 3-0 against Genk, but then lost 3-0 to PSG, a big awakening for them there. Lost to Juventus 2-1 as well, so only 3 points from their first possible 9. They did beat Juventus 3-2 though in the return match. Huge result there, and they also managed to beat Genk 3-0. So 9 points here. They just need a result in the final game, but they lost to PSG, so it'll be interesting to see if they manage to go through. Otherwise, their league form is looking pretty undecided at this point. Nothing special going on. They do manage to get a good run of unbeaten streak here. They lost to Chelsea, but through in the FA Cup third round, already out of the Carabao Cup. Won 3-1 against Leicester as well. And they kept on going. They were in the Europa League, so they were knocked out of the Champions League at the group stage with 9 points, which is unfortunate. They lost in their first leg away from home as well, but in the return leg won 3-0. Can they get back-to-back Europa League titles? League form continuing well, won 3-0 against Marseille at home, 2-1 away from home into the quarterfinals, 4-0 at home against Hertha Berlin, and 2-2 away means the 6-2 aggregate win takes them to the semis. Beat Sevilla 2-1 away from home and 3-1 at home. Back-to-back Europa League finals for Harrogate, and in the final they won 2-1 against Leicester. Back-to-back Europa League titles. They are the new Sevilla. They also managed to finish 5th in the Premier League, so they would have been guaranteed European football through the league, but they managed to qualify for the Champions League for the 2nd year in a row through the Europa League, which will give them another shot at the European Super Cup. Now, we've got a lot still to go through in this episode, so let's go forward one more year and see how they get on. Well, here they are again, and they've lost the European Super Cup once more, 3-1 to PSG, who've been absolutely whipping them over the last year or so. In the Champions League, though, they beat AC Milan 3-2 at home, a good performance there. They also beat Besiktas 3-0 and then Zenit 3-0, so it looks like they will be getting out of this group this time. And then they beat Zenit again, guaranteeing their place in the next round. Beat AC Milan 3-1 as well, and then Besiktas 2-0, so a 100% record in the Champions League group stage. 18 points from 18, sensational stuff, but their league form absolutely shocking here. I think they lost 4 of their first 5 games, and they kept losing games after that. They only won 2 of their first 8 from what I can see there. Not good at all. Also at the Carabao Cup quarter-final stage, league form still struggling, out of the FA Cup as well. And in the Champions League knockout stages, lost 1-0 away from home to Bayern Munich. Moise Kean with a goal there. In the home leg, drew... Oh no, that's Premier League. In the home leg, they did lose 3-2, so they were knocked out in the knockout stages at the first time of asking. Recovered their league form, though, after being knocked out of the cup competitions. A sensational run there at the end of the season. If we have a look at their league position, you can see at the top here, finished 5th, but by how much did they miss out in the Champions League? By quite some way. They are some distance from the top 4. That's their problem. The Europa League got them into the Champions League 2 times, but this time they're going to have to just start in the Europa League. No Champions League football next season. Now let's go and have a look at their transfer history. And as you can see, £188 million spent this season, including 95 on a player from Real Madrid, a Dutch right winger. If we go back, they spent 185 the year before that, 89 the year before that, 143 the year before that, 80 before that. I mean, this is the thing, they aren't hitting financial fair play because they've got a stadium with 150,000 attendance at every game, and when you've got Champions League football, that is going to be so much money, which is why Jose Mourinho is now at the club trying to get them up the league. But they've done so well in this episode with 2 Europa League wins in there. I don't know why they think the European Super Cup is a bigger competition than the Europa League, but they do. But absolutely sensational. They've managed to win that 2 times, and I think next episode we could see them take on the Premier League crown. So a lot to look forward to. They are continuing to grow, and when you look at their club details, they've still got that high reputation, club attendance still at the max, and they've got plenty of cash as well, including a front-end sugar daddy, which has come out of absolutely nowhere. If we look at the landmarks, Then we can see a new chairman came and took over the club, who was a tycoon, which is why they now have a front-end sugar daddy. So their charge to the top is almost certainly going to continue with all of this going on, and it's a very, very exciting time. Senior squad, then you can see they've got a few players here, and only one from Harrogate, which is Larry Duru, who obviously is a player they signed from elsewhere, from Middlesbrough for 51 million, came from Blackburn originally. But I'm sure that some of these players have come through the youth system, and I'm absolutely ashamed to see Tony Mowbray is England manager. What on earth happened in his career to help him get to this point? If we look at his career stats, or his milestones rather, then you can see he was manager of Middlesbrough, and somehow that enabled him to become the England manager. This is not the record of an England manager, I have to say. I don't know how he swindled that, but Tony Mowbray pulls the Sam Allardyce and manages to become England manager. But that is going to be it for this part of this series. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to drop a like. If you drop enough likes on, I will know you want to see another part of this series. But given they are so close to winning absolute glory, I don't know why you wouldn't drop that like. Make sure to subscribe as well. The next part will be out in a couple of days' time. Like I said at the start, if you do want to get your jerseys, make sure to go to jerseygold.com using the link in the description. You'll get 10% off using the discount code GEN, or discount code GEN. And make sure to enter the giveaway if you want a free football shirt. But until next time, see ya.